dated the 24th of October, the year 2024. We have, in addition to that, filed a list and battle of authorities on that preliminary objection, and that list and battle is dated the 25th day of October 2024, and pursuant to your directions, those are the battles, my Lord. I would suggest you hold them close to you because I'll be referring to them shortly. We have, in addition, filed written submissions, skeleton submissions dated the 27th day of October 2024. Before I delve into the PO, my Lord, a suggestion was made to you. I have forgotten to tell you, my Lord, that I appear for the second interested party together with my learned friend, Mr. Stephen Ongoya. Before I go to the PO, my Lord, a number of things were said by my friends and learned friends. I mean it because we are both rights in addition to being learned. One of the things we were told is to laugh at me for raising this PO. The other thing you were told is that the PO was determined in some rulings and directions you issued. And our simple answer, my Lord, is that unless I am mistaken, observations made by the court at the ex parte stage before full benefit of argument from all sides cannot be the subject of a submission that the issue is settled. But if you listen to me while we have raised this PO, and you find that I deserve to be laughed at, it's okay. My Lord, our PO makes only 3 interrelated points. The point number 1, which you will find in paragraph 1 of our written submission, is that the High Court's jurisdiction under Article 23, which governs human rights litigation, and Article 165, which is about enforcement of the Constitution, to confirm whether anything. I'm here to tell you very shortly, my Lord, the word anything does not actually mean anything in the literal sense, and specifically to tell you that your jurisdiction under that Article 165 does not extend to disputes as to the impeachment of the President and the Deputy President. Yes, the court has jurisdiction to enforce human rights. The court has jurisdiction to confirm whether anything allegedly done in the name of the Constitution is constitutional, but our submission is that that apparently very broad jurisdiction does not extend to a dispute as to the impeachment of the President or the Deputy President of the Republic. And that is the point made in paragraph 1 all the way to 7 of our preliminary objection. Number 2, point number 2. This court, and indeed all other courts of the Republic of Kenya, have no jurisdiction to entertain a dispute as to the impeachment of the President and the Deputy President. But if we are wrong in that submission, my Lord, because I have been wrong many times, we make the submission that the only court that would conceivably, arguably, mark my words, conceivably and arguably have jurisdiction on this dispute is the Supreme Court. And that is the subject of paragraph 8 of our preliminary objection. So why do we say that this court, though we acknowledge its broad jurisdiction under Article 23 and 165, does not extend to presidential impeachment disputes. The reasons, my Lord, are set in paragraph 6 of our submission. And the simple point is this, that our Constitution denies this court, the High Court jurisdiction, on countless matters that would fall under Chapter 4 on the Bill of Rights. Case in point, presidential elections involve human rights under Article 38. It is clear in the Constitution that this court has no jurisdiction over a dispute relating to a presidential election. Even if someone was to come here and say that he was denied his Article 38, which is a human right under that election. My Lord, it is clear by dint of Article 58 of Article 5 that this court has no jurisdiction to hear a dispute as to a declaration of a state of emergency. My Lord and friend, Mr. Ongoya talks of the word decency. We are all sufficiently decent to acknowledge that nothing invades the entire regime of human rights than a declaration of emergency. That declaration can affect the right to assembly, to expression, to basically everything. And yet the Constitution is clear. If you have a dispute as to that matter, never mind that it has abrogated the entire Bill of Rights, the court you go to is not the High Court, it is the Supreme Court. And property is a matter of the Bill of Rights, Article 40. It is clear from our Article 162 that if you have a problem in that regard, or to do with the environment, which is also a human rights matter, you go to the Environment and Land Court. So, my Lord, I'm here very humbly to tell you, the mere fact that someone has run to use screening, Article 23, Article 165, does not without more mean that this court has jurisdiction to hear that matter. In other words, my Lord, for you to exercise jurisdiction over this matter, you've been told many matters, and as far as we are concerned, the matter before you, the substratum, is the impeachment. These things you're being told about Professor Kindiki are diversionaries or subsidiaries, because without the impeachment, we will not be talking about Kindiki. So the substratum of the dispute before you is the impeachment. And our point, my Lord, in the absence of an express grant of jurisdiction on this court, on the substratum of this dispute, on the subject of this dispute, which reminds me of Professor Gidum Wige's issue about justiciability, then you have no jurisdiction. Luckily, my Lord, I hope we all agree that there is no clause of our Constitution that confers on this court jurisdiction to entertain the dispute before you. Which means, therefore, the question is whether nonetheless you have that jurisdiction, given your broad powers under Article 23 and 165. Luckily, my Lord, our Constitution was the product of a 20-year process that we call the constitutional process. And because it is in black and white, I invite you to go to page 5 of our Bible, my Lord, the Bible of Authorities. We have produced you, rather before you, extract of the Burma's constitutional, the Burma's draft constitution. It confirms to us, if you go to page 6 with me, that during the constitutional process, Kenyans actually agonized over whether this matter should be handled in the court and which court. And it's there in black and white, Article 187 on page 6. It says the Supreme Court shall have exclusive, that must mean to the exclusion of every other court, including this one. A, Roman 2, disputes arising from the process of the impeachment of the president. So when we were having our debates through the Bomas process, there was a decision, it's there in black and white, that there will be judicial review, not before this court, but in the Supreme Court. Of course we know, my lord, the Bomas draft was one of many. The next draft that was generated in that process is at page 7 of our battle, the harmonized draft constitution. At page 8, again, clause 201 of that draft constitution, it is clear there in Article 201, sub-Article 4, that the Supreme Court has, paragraph A, exclusive, underlined exclusive. We moved from that document, and luckily, my lords, the bench, to me, should be familiar with this process, to a document that went to the 2005 referendum, which was a worker draft. We have produced it at page 10 of our battle. This document is special, my lord, in the sense that it was subjected to a referendum before the people of Kenya. And again, you'll find there, Article 184, Kenyans were still toying with the idea that the courts can interfere with this process. But what I want you to mark again on page 11 is that the court that had been envisioned is the Supreme Court, not the High Court. We all, of course, know that draft was rejected by the people of Kenya, and that must mean, because this is the draft that reached the referendum, that the people of Kenya also rejected this rule of judicial intervention in this problem before you. Why do I say so? The next document is now the official constitution we have today, which is the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And it has no clause conferring jurisdiction on this court or even the Supreme Court. And since that rule was always on the table, my lord, but was dropped from the final draft, we must take it that the final decision the people of Kenya made at the referendum of 2010 was that there will be no judicial intervention in the dispute of the nature before you. You are told that we have cited Article 144, yet it is irrelevant. Let's see shortly whether it's irrelevant. We have produced Article 144 on page 13 of our budget. My lord and my lady, you can only remove the president and the deputy president through two routes. Either the route of Article 144 or Article 145. We are only mentioning 144 to help us answer, in the absence of express jurisdiction, whether there is inferred jurisdiction. And when you check 144, one of the curious rules, it tells you, 144, Article 144.8 of our Constitution, is that the report of the tribunal shall be final and not subject to appeal. And if the tribunal reports that the president is capable of performing the functions of the office, the speaker shall also communicate. And of course, it goes on to all that if it finds every whether of the idea that this type of dispute is not justiciable. Lastly, you are told about political question doctrine and many things. I will invite you to note the courts of Kenya endorsed this doctrine as early as 2005. Again, the authorities on page 51 of our battle. I don't have time to take you through it. We have produced the Sonko decisions. We have the citations, the quotes we've lifted in our written submissions. And all we are telling you, my lord, when all is said and done, is to do either of two things. Hold you have no jurisdiction. The consequence would be that these petitions must be struck out. The conservatory order must fall by the wayside, having been issued by a court lacking jurisdiction. But if my lords find that too heavy and too radical, and therefore unacceptable to this court, I am giving you the alternative. If we must infer jurisdiction, because that's what you're being asked, let's infer it at the Supreme Court, which is the global practice, so that the matter is held of this nature is handled once and for all without subjecting the country's political life. That is the public interest we have just been told from the Supreme Court of the United States. That's all, unless there is a question for me.
Thank you.